Hello and welcome in this video about Peakto 2.0. I'm going to walk you through all the main features and let's get started. The main thing you'll notice about this new version is the revamped user interface. We've changed the toolbar, made it less crowded, and we've moved a lot of the controls on a new vertical sidebar. So you can choose and go from your grid view to your panorama view, to your maps, to the new faces view. I'm going to go over that a little bit later. And you also have quick access to exporting, to creating albums, and you have a little menu here to do some other things like attaching catalogs, etc. We've also changed the top toolbar, so it's much less crowded than it used to be. So the main area is reserved to the search, and we've removed also the prompt search, so you can access prompt search simply by typing things in the search bar and then hitting the return key. So next to the search bar, you have the filter icon, which will toggle on and off the filter bar. And we've also changed the filter bar so the main filters are centered. And we've added a new filter to filter between videos and images, because videos are now new in Peakto 2.0. There is a new icon next to the filter button, which is the timeline. The timeline is a new widget that gives you access to your pictures over time, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So that's the user interface. It also comes with some more subtle changes, like we've changed the order of versions and instance. So by default now we're looking at versions, and only when you click on instance do we actually move to the instance view. We've also added things in the menus, and we've added a new feature which lets you attach catalogs in batch. So that's a new feature. You can point Peakto to a folder, and it will attach all the catalogs that are in that folder or in the subfolders of that folder. That's a really quick way to add a bunch of catalogs, or for example, Capture One sessions that you have organized in a hierarchical folder structure. You can attach them all at once. And if you point again to that same folder, of course, it will only attach the new catalogs that have appeared since the last time you've run the command. Another major change in the user interface is the way it reacts when you close the window. In previous versions of Peakto, when you would close the window, it would simply close it. Now you get a little dialog that tells you that Peakto will still continue to run in the menu bar. And indeed, while the window is not showing anymore, Peakto is still running in the menu bar. And this allows us to continue some long-running tasks, but also keep Peakto alive so that synchronization can be performed in the background. So when you click on that little menu, you can see that there are some options to control how synchronization works. Here, for example, I've set it up to synchronize every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, Peakto is going to go through all the lists with sources and check whether there are some changes and perform the synchronization. I can change that to 1 hour or to 5 hours, or even disable it. This lets me have a Peakto version that is always up to date when I want to use it, because it will have done the synchronization in the background for me. There is also a performance mode which lets us control how much resource we allocate to tasks such as ingestion. So you can keep it to standard, which is in the normal operation mode, but if you want to really use the most of your CPU, for example, when ingesting, you can set it to fast or even turbo. Going back to Peakto is simply clicking on the Open Peakto menu, and it will reopen the app. So here I can now switch that dialog off, opening, and closing, and Peakto keeps running. We try to minimize how much memory and how much CPU we use, of course, for the standard tasks. And when there is no synchronization to do, Peakto will just go idle and will release a lot of the memory it's using. If you want to really quit it, you can just simply use the quit menu and it will quit it for real. So that's about it for the user interface. One of the main new features of version 2.0 is face recognition, and I'm going to show you how this works. So let's select this source, which is called Heftiba, which is a folder source containing about 2,000 images from Heftiba, which is a photographer on Unsplash. And in these 2,000 pictures, there are a number of faces, and some of these faces reappear in various photographs, so it's a great way to demonstrate the feature. So what happens when you ingest such a source? Now, after each ingestion of new data, Peakto is going to run the AI analysis as it did before, and after that, it's going to run face recognition. So it's going to recognize all those faces in those images that you have, and then it's going to try to group them into clusters of similar faces. And whenever there are more than 5 faces in a cluster, it's going to display it. And it displays it in this new screen that we've created for the faces, which I'm going to select now. So after ingestion, this is typically what you get. You get a number of clusters that have been identified, and with a number of images in them. You can see here 29 images, and they are all untagged. So the really easy way to tag them or to do face annotation is simply to give a name to those clusters. So I could give a name here, but I can also review the cluster beforehand by clicking on the edit button, and from here I can see all these 101 faces that it has recognized, and I can see that it's done a pretty good job at recognizing the same person in those faces. I'm going to call him Bob, and so I just type his name and hit return. So now this untagged cluster is becoming a named cluster called Bob. I can still review it. From here I can still change its name if I want. I can also ignore it if I want, in which case it will simply disappear from the view and I won't see it again. And I can do the same for another cluster. So let's take this one, and I'm going to call her Maya. Now she becomes a named person in my system. I'm going to do the same for him. And I'm going to give it a name, a random name that I pick for him. And notice how you can go back to those clusters and review them. And you can also, so you can see the faces here, and you can also see the images for those faces. From here, if you notice an error, if you notice something that is wrong, let's say that this person is actually not Maya, but is someone else, so I can select her and I can assign her a new name. For example, Maureen. So Maureen has been moved out of this cluster, and a new cluster called Maureen with one picture has been created. Let's tag another one. Okay, so that's the way you really quickly go through all your clusters and name them. So this is the way to really annotate in bulk. But of course, I might miss some people, and also I might come into situations where some people that are sort of just appearing once or twice haven't created any cluster, and I still want to annotate them. So I can do that by going into the detail view. And from here, I can pick one of those two modes to annotate faces. The one is the flow mode, where it's going to go from one image after the other. And the other one is simply showing me all the faces in that picture and letting me annotate them. So suppose it's a new person. I can call him Simon. And I could call him Bill. Right. So I've just annotated that picture. But let's say I want to do a flow annotation. I can start from here, and I can go into flow annotation, and it's going to move from picture to picture. So if it's someone I want to ignore, like in this case, a very small person here that I don't know about, I'm going to hit the ignore button, and then it's going to move to the next person. So here it's come to a picture in which I already had someone annotated. And here someone new. So let's call him Phil. Hit the tab. It's going to move to the next person, which I can annotate as well, etc. And it's going to move to the next picture. And if it recognizes someone that is already in another picture and that is quite similar, it's going to prompt. It's going to show me a suggestion list, and you notice that Phil is first on the list because actually it's the same person here. So instead of retyping Phil, I can just hit the one shortcut key, and here it is. And here it doesn't really know between those two. It's probably Phil. So I'm hitting 2, and now it's proposing me someone else. So I don't know who it is. Maybe I don't know these persons, but etc. I'm going to use those shortcuts to quickly annotate people I already know about. And usually Peakto is smart enough to propose me the right person, because it's going to compare the picture that is about to be annotated with the ones he already knows about. I'm going to hit the escape button now and go back to my clusters view, and you can see how my clusters have been constructed. Now suppose I notice an error, or suppose I notice that actually these two persons are the same, and maybe I did spell them differently, but they're actually the same person. So I can simply go here and say it's actually Phil, and it's going to merge those clusters, and now I have all the images here. So you can easily fix errors or fix clusters that have been named differently in various sources and merge them together simply by giving them the same name. So once you have people that have been annotated and you go into the filter view, I can click on the faces view here, and it's going to show me the Peakto faces that I have annotated for that particular scope. And so I can use it to quickly create filters. So the top of the view is the Peakto faces, and the bottom of the view is the faces that might exist in the source that I'm looking at and that have been annotated in the original catalog. So here I'm looking at a folder, so that there's no face annotation. But suppose I'm looking at photos or Lightroom where I can annotate with face, I would see all the Lightroom faces here. Let's go and pick an example here. For example, here I'm in a Lightroom catalog for which I have annotated some people. So for example, I can go here. It's a very, using that filter, I can really quickly find those two images where I have this person, and I can decide to annotate here and turn this Lightroom annotation into a Peakto annotation. And now it appears as a Peakto person as well. Notice that Peakto currently doesn't let you annotate people that are not showing their face. For example, this person seeing from the back cannot be annotated as a face. It hasn't been recognized as a person. This might change in the future, but currently you can't put your own face circle here and annotate it. So this is the new faces module in Peakto, and we hope you like it. The next main feature in Peakto 2.0 is the support for videos. So we now support videos as first-class citizen in Peakto, whether they come from files and folders or whether they come from existing catalogs that support videos such as Lightroom or Capture One, Apple Photos, etc. So if you have already ingested a Lightroom catalog that had videos, for example, in Peakto 1, you wouldn't see them. So you have to run the deep sync in order to make them appear in 2.0. But here I'm looking at such a catalog. It's a Lightroom catalog, and I have videos. The videos are displayed with a time code and a little icon at the top that lets you see that they are videos. And when you hover the mouse over the thumbnail, you will see the video frames. There is also a little extra icon at the bottom here, which opens a little window with a contact sheet and the player. So the player is the player of the full video with sound and everything you want. Whereas the video that you see when you hover is just a sampled video with no sound. So if the original file goes offline because it's maybe on an external drive that contains all your videos, you will still be able to see the scrubbed video, so the sort of summary video, but you won't see the player. You will only see the contact sheet. If you double click on a video, you will see the player in full and the contact sheet on the left. The contact sheet is a great way to move quickly to a certain part of the video. And play from there. Of course, videos can be annotated. You can add exactly the same annotations that you do with other items in Peakto. They can be used in smart albums. They can be used in exactly the same way as you work with images. Videos get also some metadata associated, and you see how the exif summary screen is modified in the case of video. We display the codec for both video and audio, as well as some information about the file, the format, duration, etc. Note also that in the case of Capture One, videos that are coming from Capture One get their date properly set up, which is not the case in Capture One, where the date is often absent. So Peakto grabs all the metadata from the video files rather than rely on Capture One to give the metadata. As I mentioned before, if you go in the grid or in other views, we've added a little filter here that lets you really quickly see all the videos in a specific scope. So here I'm looking at only the videos. You can see these are all video files, as you can tell from the time code being displayed here. And you can also decide to see only the images, in which case there are no videos displayed, or you can see both. Videos can be exported. So when you do an export, it will export the video file if you choose to export the original master, for example. It won't do any transcoding for now of your video files, as it does with images, where it transcodes them to JPEGs or to PNG based on the settings that you choose. But for videos, it keeps them the way they are. Videos also work with search, and if you do a search, well, let's start with something really simple. Sunset on a boat. It will find images, it will find videos. And notice that in the case of videos, it will display a little blue bar, which indicates the part of the video that is most relevant to the search I'm doing. Let's say I'm looking for boats sailing on the Golden Gate Bridge. Right, so here it finds a number of items that are all correct, and here it picks up a video, and actually this video, you can see the blue bar shows the portion of the video where the Golden Gate is actually visible, whereas the other parts are simply boats sailing. So it tries to find and to display the most relevant part of the video using a blue bar, or several blue bars. Sometimes there are several parts of the videos that are relevant. Here, for example, it's the beginning of the video that there is the gate and then the boats. So this is search in videos. It works the same way as search in images, except that it tries to pinpoint those frames that really contain the things that you're looking for. The next thing I want to cover in this video is the timeline. The timeline is a new widget that you can access from the toolbar that will display the distribution of images over time. So here, for example, I'm looking at all my sources. I have 5,000 images in for this demo, and I can see the distribution of the capture dates of those images. So every bar represents a number of images. Like here, this bar represents 344 photos taken from November 8th to November 17th of 2015. The scale is logarithmic, means that every line here corresponds to 10, 100,000 images. So what does the timeline let me do? The timeline lets me create selections. First of all, create time windows. If I want to just focus on what has been done in 2016, I can simply create that selection here. And as you can see, it gives me the date here. I can move, I can adjust those handles. If I want to see more, I can zoom in using the plus and minus zoom, or I can do zoom in a selection, in which case it's simply going to zoom in my selection here, and I can see all the distribution of images over time in that period. I can further refine my selection if I want to, and see what happened in a particular period of time. So that's one of the use of the timeline, is to be able to select over time and see what happens. Let's take an example. I'm going to zoom back, clear my selection, and pick another source. Let's say, for example, I'm looking at that travel to China. I can see those dates. I can see what happened on that day, on this other day, etc. Very easily by simply selecting over a period of time and adjusting my handles, maybe zooming in. If I want to get more details, I can zoom in, etc. But there's another way to use it, and this is when you actually create selections. So for example, if I'm looking at my images that are above 3 stars, I only have 17 images in that selection, and I can see now the blue bars corresponds to the selection, so my 3-star images, and I can see how they are distributed over time and how they compare to the rest of my images. If I go back to, for example, all my sources and look at all my images and look at my 3-star images, I can see in this demo catalog how they are distributed over time and how they compare to the rest of my images. And that is true too for everything I'm doing. This is my hefty back catalog that I've annotated with people before. If I open my people tab and I look at Bob, for example, I will see now all the distribution of the pictures of Bob that I have. Or if I want Maureen, Maya, etc., I can see in very clear detail what are those images that I have here for that person. That's a great way to explore your data set. You can set custom filters, and you can see how the images that correspond to the specific filter you're doing are distributed over time and how they compare to the rest of your images. Here is another example where I've set my filter on videos taken on a specific day, and I can see that I've taken videos mostly during this period of time and taking no videos later on during the day. So this is a great way to actually see how you've been doing, or what kind of equipment you've been using, or what kind of specific settings you've been using for ISO or for aperture or whatever. So the timeline is a great new tool, and we can't wait to see how you're going to use it. This release is also packed with lots of details that we've modified and made better. So one of the things, for example, is how the user interface behaves when it gets really small. We've vastly improved that. Even in the presence of the inspector, notice how the bottom bar of the annotation is behaving when you scale down. This should make it work with really small screens. We're going to do a number of videos about more advanced concepts that I didn't touch about. In the case of faces, for example, how you work with clusters, how you correct clusters when there are some images that should be in other clusters, or when there are two clusters that have been merged and you want to separate them again. You can do all that with Peakto, and this is going to be the subject of new videos. We hope you like this release, and we are looking forward to your feedback. Bye-bye.